r/AskReddit. What's everyone's favorite podcast to listen to? 99% invisible. They do little stories about the history and impact of hidden objects that you don't think about much, but that actually have a huge impact on society. Ones I remember off the top of my head are fish ladders, shipping containers, algorithms, the architecture style in San Francisco's Chinatown, and the model who posed for most of the early 1900s statues and frescoes in New York City architecture. You know, all those stately women carved into the sides of buildings? Those were of a person. And the production value of them is just crazy high. Great sound editing and amazing interviews and writing. And it's recorded in beautiful downtown Oakland, California. The Adventure Zone. 3 brothers and their father play a game of D&D. Great if you love D&D, fantasy, or just appreciate a good story. Also there's My Brother, and Me, by the same 3 brothers as the above. It's a comedy podcast that sort of parodies an advice podcast. They take questions they found online and answer them in surprising and often hilarious ways. Basically anything the McElroys do is great. I started with Sawbones, so it took a few episodes for me to acquire a taste for Justin, because I was looking for a quirky but informative history podcast and thought, would this distracting jackass just shut up already? Now, over 200 episodes later, I consider him indispensable to their show, and I wish I had more room in my listening schedule to fit him and the rest of his family. The History of Rome. The entire series is done, about 200 episodes I think, and he goes through the entire timeline of the Roman Empire, with occasional episodes dedicated to aspects of Roman culture. So great. Listen to it twice, and now listening to the history of Byzantium. Been the only thing I've listened to at work / the gym / doing chores for like a year now, lol. Learning history gives so much perspective. Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. If you're really into history, or even moderately, and can handle parceling out 5-6 hour episodes, he crams so much information into those hours about such a range of events and peoples. It's mind-blowing, if you are a whore for context like I am. My god, yes. Dan Carlin's Hardcore History and Common Sense. Do yourself a favor. He's not doing Common Sense anymore. Makes me sad. I really miss it. I understand his reasons, though. I just miss hearing his input on contemporary issues. I love Reply All. It's a podcast about the internet, so the subjects and topics are varied. Super interesting. This needs to be much higher up, no offense. Other podcasts. For anyone curious, it's a somewhat tech-related podcast that covers topics that seem very mundane at first, but usually develop very interesting storylines. Some examples to get a feel for it. Zajalu, Ep. 56. The story behind the internet meme of rats dragging slices of pizza in the New York subway. Sounds like a weird topic, and it turns out to be much weirder than you'd expect when a mysterious woman named Zajulu enters the picture. The case of the phantom caller, Ep. 104. Someone got in contact with the guys behind Reply All with a strange case of random calls that she receives that just sound like misdeals. There's more to it than that. These are just 2 of the many episodes that stood out to me, and I said all I could without using spoilers. While the podcast is tech related, it's not necessarily aimed at its specialists, quite the opposite. Actually, the journalistic quality of the podcasts is astounding, and more people should listen to them. Don't forget Long Distance's episodes 102 and 103, where they harass a call center in India that's trying to scam them. They eventually go to India to make contact with the owners of the company. Last podcast on the left. Really informative if you like the horror genre. They talk about cults, killers, ghosts, the like. Really funny too. Sometimes I have to pause the podcast because I'm laughing so hard I can't hear their information. And that's the final truth. Hail yourself. Nerd alert. Hello Internet with CGP Grey and Brady Heron. Hi there, Tim. Can I have those sloppy buns, if you don't mind? Only if you humbler hug me first. The Thursday afternoon just before Friday Monday morning podcast by Bill Burr. Just checking in on why. Zip. I'm a truck driver, so I listen to quite a few. Big Picture Science, Inside Science VBC, No Such Thing as a Fish, The Infinite Monkey Cage, Liftoff, GM Word of the Week, Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, Citation Needed, Cognitive Dissonance. Citations Needed is so good. I just think that anything Noah, Heath and Ellie touch is great. Tom and Cecil are great. But like, the Gamboys helped me through so tough times, so I've got a special place in my heart for them. Powerful JRE. The only problem with JRE is that I haven't yet figured out if he's the dumbest smart guy on the planet or if he's the smartest meathead. Most of the time his show is great though. I've personally assumed he's the dumbest smart guy. He's very good at asking the right questions. Sawbones. It's a medical history podcast recorded by Justin and Dr. Sidney McElroy. It's my go-to for long drives. Lol, the Adventure Zone and my brother and me as well. Wait. So is this the same McElroy? Because if so, I'm sold. My dad wrote a porno. Self-explanatory. Edit. Damn. This is my most upvoted comment ever. Thanks everyone. My favorite quote has to be when Rocky is describing the Duchess nipples as large as the 3-inch rivets which held the hull of the fateful Titanic together. Oh god, I laughed so much at that, but the line about her tasting the flesh of mankind is my favorite. Pardon my take. Sheesh. Flip on the pod. Pour some vino and you're all set. Favorite. Probably the Triforce podcast. With Sips, Lewis and Pyrian Philax. It's just really funny. Sips and Pyrian's dad talk. Lewis' questionable sexuality and Pyrian's epic Bodiger space novel. Another podcast that's pretty good as the official podcast. With CR1 Tycho, Penguins Zero, and his friends. If you hate pedophiles, you'll like this podcast. I have a gaping ginner. I'm Dave Yogpod and I have the balls. Welcome to Night Vale. Check out their other podcast, Alice Isn't Dead. It's great. Within the Wires is great too. My favorite murder. It's a great comedic true crime podcast. SSDGM. You're in a cult. Call your dad. Stuff you should know episodes on almost every interesting topic ever. And I mean everything. There's head decapitation to how the Secret Service works to fecal transplants. All in the Mind. Talks about all things psychology. Not too long but super informative. I want to like this podcast, but their episodes are far too short. There's just not enough depth. I listened for a while, but it may as well have been called two guys reading Wikipedia. What especially bothered me is sometimes they'd come across a question neither one of them knew the answer to, and instead of looking it up, or even saying we don't know, one of them would offer what they thought might be the answer. Really poor idea. As if they were super crunched for time and couldn't bother to have a browser window open while recording. Here are a few of my go-to podcasts that other folks haven't mentioned yet. In no particular order. Lore, myths, folklore and the like. Great narrator. Alice Isn't Dead. Also, Within the Wires, same writers as Welcome to Night Vale, but engaging stories. Criminal interview and stories about criminals and crimes begin small. Serial killers and cults, both are good if you like true crime. Thrilling adventure hour, stories told like old-time radio serials. Great comedians and performers. It's done now, but tons of episodes to listen to. I especially like the Beyond Belief and Sparks Nevada segments. Hello from the Magic Tavern. Improve comedy podcast about a guy that falls into magic dimension. Sends weekly podcast about his life, stuck in that world with his new buddies. Edit, fixed some spelling issues, and expanded on descriptions a little. Thanks to all who replied. Some great suggestions I've been checking on all day. If you like lore you might like myths and legends as well. When it was still going. Sleepy Cabin. Sleepy Cast is 100% the best. Comedy Bang Bang. Great improv comedy with really intricate running continuities for reoccurring characters. Some of the funniest comedians around are regulars and guests. Pretty absurdist humor. But if you're into that it's great. In turn Gino taking about being a bait boy in the Catholic Church might have made me laugh harder than anything else in 2017. For me. MC Sugarbutt talking about the 5/7 days of Christmas was the best thing I've heard all year. The dollop and how did this get made? The dollop is what I came here to say. I enjoy it. But everyone else I've played it for absolutely hates the hosts. Sometimes they do take the stupid too far, but I guess I just tune it out and wait for them to get back on subject. Weekly Planet Podcast. Just a couple of Aussies talking it, with a dash of comic book news. Well done for not dogging the boys. Come town. Hell yeah dude. LeVar Burton reads. He reads short fiction stories in each episode. It's as close to a young adult/adult reading rainbow as you can get. So much nostalgia. Geordie LaForge. Slow burn. It just ended, but it is super interesting. It is about Watergate, but talks more about the people around and their reaction/involvement. I only know basically the basics about Watergate, so I feel like I learned a lot. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.